the next project is the walls. And for the walls, we decided to do shiplap. This is a primed pine shiplap. These are 8-foot boards. It's about 1/2 inch thick and about 5 inches and a quarter wide overall width. So this is not MDF. I would never put an MDF in a Skoolie. And so we decided to fasten them with these deck screws, as well as this max strength Gorilla construction adhesive, which is the strongest one the Gorilla makes. And the reason why we went with this versus just brad nails and glue is because the shiplap is going directly onto the framing. We don't have any kind of plywood in the backing that we can screw first into the framing to save on the width, the cost, and the weight. And we're going to be anchoring stuff like cabinets, couch, bunk beds into the shiplap. So we need the shiplap to stay strong, holding to the framing. And we need to do that because we did the framing vertical up and down, so stuff is not lining up directly on the framing when it comes to like the bunk bed. In hindsight, I would do the framing horizontal long ways, so that way I have anchoring points for anything wherever I want to anchor. But this way, by using these strong deck screws, that they are 1 inch and 5/8, and with the glue too, and glue might help also with squeaking, because the wood is not going to be rubbing on the framing directly. So hopefully that will help with squeaking too. But between those two, it's gonna hold well, and I can then fasten cabinets and stuff into the shiplap. And of course, we're gonna also connect all that stuff into the floor too, which is extra strong and held down. But we need the walls to be somewhat strong too. So I can't just use brad nails and glue. I don't think it's gonna hold well enough to make me feel comfortable. So that's what I'm gonna be doing now. I won't have to cover the screws with like wood putty or anything like that in most places, because that's gonna be all hidden behind cabinets and couch and stuff like that, fridge. But just few spots that are higher up, they're gonna be visible. I'm gonna need to cover that with putty and sand down. And the reason why I'm going with the Gorilla construction adhesive versus the wood glue I've been using on the ceiling is because these boards are primed, even on the back. And I already tested it with wood glue, and wood glue is not holding that well, probably because it can't penetrate through the wood because of the primer. And I'm hoping with this construction adhesive it's gonna hold better than with the wood glue. Now when I think about it, I don't need to use screws on every board. Even though I'm gonna anchor stuff to these boards, I can brad nail most of them, and when the time comes to install appliances or bunk beds, I can just come with the screws only to those boards that I'm gonna anchor stuff into, and screw those add the screws there, because that's gonna save me a lot of time and screws as well, because it's unnecessary, I think, to have screws everywhere then, because I'm gonna be anchoring, for example, bunk beds maybe every 12 inches, so I can skip few boards, then one board with screws, and skip 2 boards. And I can do brad nails now with all of them to get it quickly up, and then later on I can still have room for screws into those few boards that I will be anchoring stuff to. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna do from now on. Alright, I'm gonna show you now how I mark and cut these boards when I have electrical outlets. So I already cut this board to size with the lengthwise, and I'm just propping it up here just to mark that where I need to cut. Okay, that's marked. Now I need to figure out the distance from the bottom, and I do that by taking a scrap piece of shiplap and I'm placing it as if it was going to sit on there, and then I can come over here and mark on it, and then I can translate that on this board right here. I can line it up, so right there, and then this guy. Right there. So I can go in and mark it. Alright. Now I can take my oscillating tool. All right, let's see if this fits. All right, that's pretty close. That's pretty close. That's looking good. Now I can come over here, get my construction adhesive. A little bit in the middle. A little bit in the middle. All right. Okay. I'm lining it up on this side. Okay. Brad nail. I like to do here as well to connect the two boards so it doesn't bow, and there's glue there as well, so that's gonna really hold it. I'm gonna bend this downwards. And this side. There we go. That's done. And then for the second board, it's kind of similar, just kind of reverse upside down. That one's gonna need a bigger piece cut out. Let's see. Yeah, so up to here. Okay, that's looking good. Got these two. A jigsaw is even better at cutting the outlets. This is how I do it. progress. One thing I want to mention is make sure you stagger your shiplap boards. Don't terminate them all at the same place. Like right here. See this? That's not good because they'll get misaligned, and then you know one side's gonna be taller than the other. But if you stagger them, they kind of keep each other straight, and much better that way. When I'm cutting these boards on the miter saw, I first cut off a little bit of the end because sometimes they don't come square out of the factory or mill or whatever. And then I flip it, and then I measure the length, and I cut it to length. You know what makes me really happy? This board perfectly lines up with the bottom of this electrical box, and I don't need to trim it. I will need to trim the top one, but this is just beautiful. This is the status so far. Now I want to do this portion over here, this gap. Now I was first thinking of just cutting it right to this tongue and groove sealing part, but the problem is it's not even everywhere, you know. Left side is like a little bit shorter than over here, for example, so it'd be a little trickier to get that perfect line so the white shiplap ends right on the cedar tongue and groove. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do it about 1/4 inch longer than the cedar, and then I gotta cut a groove in it so it sits straight up, because if I put a board over it, it's gonna be tilted. It's not gonna be flat as with this bottom one. So I can use like a router or a table saw. So first thing I'm doing is I'm cutting them on the table saw to the right width I want, and then later on I'm gonna cut a groove on the edge so it can go over the ceiling. Okay, so I've lowered the blade so it's only sticking out about 1/4 inch above the table. Of course, I have a router, but I don't have the bits for it. With a router it would have been a lot easier, and I'm not gonna go to the store right now for that. I'll just do it on the table saw. Also, table saws, you can buy wide blades for them that would do this in one go, but I don't have that, of course, now, so I'm just gonna have to move the stopper over a little bit, do it, move it over, do it until it's wide enough. Right, I put in the construction adhesive everywhere, even on the ceiling a little bit on the edge, and now I'm putting in the board. Okay, got my nail gun here. get this edge here. Oh, come on. Oof. This one is a little... Okay. Oh, it's not all the way. Okay, over here. All right, that's looking good. Nice. I like the way this looks. Here is the final look. What do you think? I like it. Looks clean. So I'm gonna do a test now to see how well the brad nails and construction adhesive is holding this shiplap board. I need to remove it because I don't have access to the 30 amp power inlet here to put the cable in. So I'm gonna have to remove this board. Oh wow. Okay, that was, look at this, it broke the wood on the framing here. It ripped it out. See that? Pieces of framing. That's good, that was strong. I have to clean this up now. Look at this. That's all the construction adhesive that stayed on the framing. Yeah, this is not going anywhere. This is good. Let me show you a little trick over here. You see how there's a gap down at the bottom, and over here there is no gap because this board is more inwards on the bottom side. So I want to cut this board so it perfectly fits there. The way I'm doing it is I got a flat washer, I'm putting it on my pencil, and I'm going to trace it. There we go. And I just got to cut it on there. Now, let's see if it fits. That's good. That's great. Let me show you why I love the router I bought. So you see over here there is a step. This piece of support for the loft is sticking out. That means when I put my shiplap here, it's gonna stick out and be deformed. So I'm gonna show you how I'm using the router to trim the corner of the shiplap so it ends up being like flush and straight down. So here it is. This is the router. I got the Walt and I put this bit on it. It's about 1/8 or 3/16 of an inch. Now the depth, I set the depth by unhooking this and rotating this. Alright. See, it shaved off that amount. So now when I come over here, I put this in here, now it's not sticking out anymore, it's flush. It's nice and beautiful. That's exactly what I want. The walls are done. I'm so happy the way it looks. Let me show you over here. This is the loft area. I still need to do some over here, but I'm waiting until I figure out the door situation and frame, because then I'm gonna have to add a few boards here. And all this trim around the windows, that's gotta get trimmed with a router when I'm ready to do the final trim, and I have to put some roller blinds or shades and stuff like that, so I'm keeping that for later. But this is how it looks like. I managed to get the corners to meet well, even around here. And then let's turn around. There we go. Over here, great transition to the ceiling. Of course, later, at a later date, I need to fill in all these holes and transitions and sand that and paint it, but I'm not going to do that until everything is installed, because some of these are going to be hidden behind the appliances, so I don't need to do those. But once I have the appliances and all the furniture installed, then what's visible, that's when I'm going to come in and sand that, fill that and sand and then paint, because it's only primed right now. Of course, over here we're gonna have some probably Schluter Curdy board, waterproof boards for the shower. No need for shiplap here on the back wall, because that's the garage area. It's not gonna be visible. As you can see, I already started installing the dividing wall for the garage. It's gonna be a small garage, but we don't have room in the bus for a bigger one. Gotta finish this trim here, but if I put it now, it's gonna prevent this door from being open, so I need to cut this and figure out a different way to open this door. And all this trim around here where the window is, I'm gonna have to do that with a router later, as I mentioned, when I'm figuring out all the curtains and stuff like that, and the final trim on the around the windows. This is a shot from the back. It's looking good. What do you think? Up there in the corner I have a big gap that I'm gonna fill eventually when I'm painting all this with filler and sand it so it's not visible. On the other side it's good. Middle is pretty good. Just that right side I cut the boards too short. As you can see, I have all these writings lines with the pencil. They're telling me where my wires are so I don't accidentally puncture them with a nail gun. See, I put a nail right there and right there because I know the wire is between them. Alright, so I'm gonna continue working on the dividing walls between the rooms. It's coming along.